History Spotlight, brought to you by HEC Media and the Missouri Historical Society.
Hello, I'm Dr. Jody Sowell, president of the Missouri Historical Society in St. Louis, and this is History Spotlight. In the 1970s, a St. Louis businessman took matters into his own hands during a plane hijacking. Public historian Adam Kloppe explains how his bold move changed the course of this unforgettable crime.
On June 23, 1972, a 30-year-old St. Louis businessman named David Hanley was at a bar listening to the news and getting upset. The top story on the local news that evening was the story of yet another airplane hijacking. This time, the hijacking was based out of St. Louis. Frustrated, Hanley told his friend to be prepared for something that would rock the world, and then he left the bar. The hijacking on June 23rd started in a way fairly typical for that period in American history. As unsettling as this may seem to us today, aircraft hijacking was a fairly common crime at the time. In fact, between 1968 and 1972, more than 130 flights in the United States had been hijacked. The June 23rd hijacking started when a 28-year-old man named Martin McNally boarded a flight in St. Louis. As the plane was beginning its descent into Tulsa, McNally pulled out a gun and approached a flight attendant. He handed her a note demanding $500,000, a shovel, and 5 parachutes. If he received these things, he said, no one would be hurt. The pilots turned the plane back toward St. Louis, where authorities began gathering McNally's ransom money and planning for a way to catch McNally once all the hostages were free. When the plane landed back in St. Louis so that authorities could hand off the cash to McNally, a crowd gathered outside Lambert Airport to take in the scene firsthand. As the onlookers watched the plane begin to taxi to a runway after the money was exchanged, they saw something incredible. Suddenly, a Cadillac Eldorado barreled through the safety fence and began careening toward the hijacked plane at 80 miles an hour. The car was driven by David Hanley, the man who had promised to rock the world. As Hanley pulled even with the nose of the plane, he smashed into the front wheels and ended up jammed under the left wing, stopping the plane in its tracks. Hanley's car was badly damaged, though Hanley would suffer only minor injuries, and would later claim he had no recollection of any of the evening's events. However, for all the excitement of the crash, Hanley hadn't put an end to the hijacking. No one on board the plane had been hurt, and McNally quickly demanded another plane, or else, he threatened, people would be killed. Authorities found him another 727, which took off from St. Louis in the early morning hours of June 24th. McNally jumped from that plane over Indiana, but lost his bag of money during the descent. Authorities later recovered the bag. McNally himself was arrested 5 days later in Detroit with only $13 to his name. He was released from federal prison in 2010.
To learn more about the Missouri Historical Society, visit mohistory.org.